Hi there, my name is Dr. Julie TwoMoon, and as many of you know, I'm a naturopathic medical doctor and an acupuncturist, and I practice in Plymouth, Michigan. One of the biggest issues that a lot of people present with or call and email with questions about are thyroid issues. The thyroid is a really important part of our endocrine system, and yet I think it's poorly understood and given minimal attention in conventional medicine. And in natural medicine, I think there's a lot of misconceptions. There's a lot of really marginal information out there, and it causes people to suffer a lot longer than they need to with issues related to the thyroid. So I thought I'd give you a few thyroid pointers if you think you have a thyroid problem. If someone has ever suggested that you have a thyroid problem, perhaps not classical hypothyroidism in particular, and I am particularly going to talk here today about hypothyroid type problems. Hyperthyroidism is an entirely different issue. So a lot of people know that if their thyroid was functioning poorly, they might start to gain weight, they might have fatigue, muscle aches, hair loss, digestive problems, depression. These are all really common symptoms, but of course there are also really common symptoms of a lot of other conditions as well. So it's important to not get too attached to the issue of the thyroid. And there's good reason for that. Your thyroid doesn't function all by itself. Your thyroid is connected to the rest of your endocrine system. And in fact, I find in most people the thyroid became dysfunctional after enough stress had been applied to the pituitary, the hypothalamus, and the adrenals to cause the thyroid to no longer be able to keep up. This is not classical hypothyroidism, where lab tests show that the thyroid itself has become dysfunctional, although that too can have a significant portion of its problem rooted in the hypothalamus. This is subclinical hypothyroidism, where you have many of the symptoms, but your blood tests come back normal. And that's the case for most people out in the world, especially women, who consistently report to doctors expressing common symptoms, and then their labs are normal, so they are kind of given the brush off. It's really common in those situations that women are given antidepressants, and the reason behind it, of course, is that one of their problems that they reported was depression, and so the doctors assume that a lot of what they're experiencing is in their head, and that perhaps they're overeating because they're depressed, when in reality most women with thyroid, especially subclinical thyroid problems, do not in fact overeat. In most cases they're undereating, and therefore their weight gain has a lot more to do with hormone problems and with liver stress than it does with an excess consumption of food. Now, if you have thyroid problems, there's a few things I want you to pay attention to. First of all, if you think you have a thyroid problem, do not eat copious amounts of raw foods. Raw foods are cold and damp, and when we have robust constitutions with lots and lots of energy and digestive fire, they can be fantastic and amazing and certainly repair a lot of systems. Women in particular are really prone to what's called dampness and spleen qi deficiency in Chinese medicine. The spleen is an organ that wants to function a lot like great garden soil. It wants to be warm and nourished by the sun. It wants to have a high nutrient level, slightly damp but not soggy, and raw foods are cold and damp by their nature, which is why if you look at the roots of Chinese medicine, it is rarely recommended to eat raw foods. Yes, the enzyme content of course is still present in something that is raw, but its nutritional bioavailability just isn't there if you have weak digestion, because the cellulose in the plant fibers make it impossible for you to break the food down adequately. So it's a catch-22. You have enzymes, but you're unable to use them, which is why the Chinese recommend often lightly cooking food, and that is the best for anyone who thinks that they have a thyroid problem. Raw nuts and seeds can also cause some significant problems for people with thyroid problems. They should, at minimal, be soaked, ideally sprouted, and definitely avoid anything that was roasted, salted, all of those kind of categories for nuts and seeds. Another thing that you're going to want to do is avoid the vegetable oils other than raw coconut oil, ethically harvested palm oil from South America or Africa, and ghee and grass-fed butter. Those are the only fats that are truly acceptable. Real lard can be acceptable as well. By that I mean lard that was from a pasture-raised animal that was then rendered, not what you find in most grocery stores today. The vegetable oils are extremely toxic to our nervous system. Vegetable oils didn't come into use in the United States until after 1920, and our rates of chronic diseases have significantly risen exponentially ever since their introduction. Fats are a huge part of how our body functions, and vegetable oils contribute to inflammation in a big way. So if you think you have a thyroid problem, the last thing you want to do is eat a lot of canola, safflower, sunflower, soy oil. And if you think, well, I don't eat those things at home, I cook in olive oil. Fantastic, except for copious use of olive oil, not ideally good either, because olive oil is mostly rancid before it hits the store shelves. But the other factor is that if you eat at restaurants, they're cooking in soy oil, and so you're getting copious amounts of soy oil. Soy itself can act as a significant, what they call goitrogen, so it acts to inhibit the thyroid function. Most Americans don't think they consume much soy, but if you go look at the products on your shelves at home, you may be surprised to find that soy is in almost every packaged food out there. So between the packaged foods and what you get at restaurants, you're getting a lot of soy, and you're eating it every day. And it is dramatically contributing to thyroid problems, which leads us to the issue of it's not just soy, but it's the genetic modification of the soy. Most people don't realize, but over 90% of the soy that is found in modern day diets has been genetically modified. Two aspects to that are the genetic modification has changed the literal genetic structure of the plant from its original form to something entirely human altered. And the second factor is that copious use of pesticides have been sprayed on that plant because that's part of the patent use rights for genetically modified seeds. For you, that means you've taken in not only a food that's an endocrine disruptor, but chemicals that are as well. There is no way to copiously spray a plant and then consume said plant and not get pesticide exposure. Genetically modified, aka non-organic foods, are extremely damaging to the thyroid, in fact, to the entire hormonal system. They cause damage that is very difficult to reverse. So if you think you have a hormonal problem, one of your most important steps is going to be changing to an organic-based diet, limiting all restaurant foods. If you can, take them out completely. There are very few restaurants that cook their food in a way that is suitable to your health. You may think it's an easy indulgence, but if you have to then work that food out of your system for months as you detoxify, it was more of a risk than a benefit, and you certainly didn't really get the break you intended. So I always encourage my patients to really start to look at that as a factor in their long-term health. If you think you have a thyroid problem, you're going to want to keep a regular schedule. People who stay up past 11, 12 o'clock at night, there is no way to repair the endocrine system. Absolutely none. You're simply hindering any possible progress. And the last factor of don'ts is do not start taking huge doses of iodine. I know that there is a lot of information out there that says that that is the way to cure a dysfunctional thyroid. My opinion is based off of the work of Dr. Emanuel Ravici and others who have shown that high doses of iodine are in fact extremely taxing to the body. Iodine is an essential nutrient. It is used by the thyroid. It can be used to kick off heavy metals, but its main area of action is the nuclear component of your cells. The nuclear component, as you would imagine, is extremely small. The actual milligrams of iodine found there is minuscule. And larger doses are not meant to be found circulating through your blood and your tissues and your lymph and your serum. It's not meant to be there. High doses of iodine are stressful to the body, and yet most people have mistakenly started to take mega doses, upwards of 50 milligrams a day, because they've been told it will cure their thyroid problems. Many find that this thrusts them into an autoimmune thyroid state that then must be addressed through other means as well. Now, if you think you have a thyroid problem, obviously you've heard a few things that you can do. Consume nicely, gently cooked foods. It will nourish your spleen, it will restore energy, it will allow your body to actually reinvigorate the cellular processes. You're going to want to get gentle exercise. That's gentle movement like Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, walking outside. You're going to want to spend time outside. You cannot spend your entire life inside in temperature-controlled environments and expect your thyroid to recover. It is essential that you go outside. In warmer climates or in the summertime especially, expose your skin to the sun without sunblock on for periods of time every day. Your own vitamin D synthesis is essential for any endocrine recovery. Vitamin D is also essential, but you're going to want to have your levels checked. If your serum levels are really high because you've been chronically supplementing with vitamin D based on media information that it is essential, which it is to your health, but a lot of people have been inappropriately taking large doses for a long period of time. You're going to want to have your lab levels checked, and then you're going to want them evaluated by a doctor who knows that your thyroid does not function independently of itself. Functional medicine has significantly different lab levels for thyroid hormones. That's not to say if you, even in a functional medicine standpoint, seem to have a normal thyroid, that there isn't stress in the system. You're going to want to work with someone who can assess that, looks at the thyroid as being related to the hypothalamus and the adrenals and your reproductive system. And for women, this is essential. You don't have to take no for an answer. You're going to want to adopt a clean diet, of course. Does that mean everyone with thyroid problems has to be gluten-free? No. Does that mean everyone with thyroid problems has to be dairy-free? No. Those are dramatic misconceptions. There is not a one-size-fits-all diet out there for any condition, for any group of people, other than organic. Wheat is a problematic food. That comes from the fact that our modern wheat has 42 chromosomes. Ancient wheat has 16. It's a dramatic shift, and our bodies just aren't accustomed to dealing with it. If you think you have thyroid problems, be proactive. Don't jump on whatever you find on the internet. That can be a dangerous game because there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of information that's gained a lot of hype, even though it has not actually been that long-term successful for a lot of people. But thyroid issues are real, but they're never isolated. I've never seen a person who only had a thyroid problem. In fact, almost every time, it has been other parts of the endocrine system that are stressed more than the thyroid. To effectively create healing in your body, you have to go through the same processes as you would for any other condition. Clean up the diet, restore the gut, restore the immune system, restore the lymphatic flow, and allow the communication to resume from the cells to the endocrine system and hormone production to be restored. My name is Dr. Julie TwoMoon. This is my introduction to the do's and don'ts if you think you have a thyroid problem.